The pounding on my door hit like a hammer that bright afternoon. I yanked it open and there stood Karen Pritchard, HOA president, her face beet red and eyes bulging. "Emma Thompson, this is your final warning," she screamed, shoving a thick envelope into my chest. My heart slammed against my ribs. What the heck? All I did was help an old veteran who had nowhere to go. I let out a long sigh, the smell of her cheap perfume mixing with the fresh-cut grass from my lawn. Sergeant Bill Hayes, 72 years old, sat in his beat-up truck across the street. He had served in Vietnam, lost his wife last year, and the VA waitlist for housing was endless. I let him park in my driveway and crash in my guest room for a couple weeks, just until he got back on his feet. How was that a crime? "You are violating Section 4.2 of the Covenants," Karen spat, jabbing a finger toward Bill. "No extended guests without board approval. $2,000 in fines already? And if he is not gone by tomorrow, we lien your house." Her voice cracked the quiet neighborhood like a whip. Birds scattered from the trees. Neighbors peeked from windows. My hands shook as I clutched the papers. "Are you kidding me right now?" I shot back. "This man fought for our country and you want to kick him to the curb over some stupid parking rule?" Karen smirked, flipping her bleached hair. "Rules are rules. I do not make them. I enforce them." She spun on her heel and marched back to her shiny SUV, tires squealing as she peeled away. I stood there, breath ragged, the afternoon sun beating down on my neck. Tears stung my eyes, but I blinked them back hard. Not today. I posted the whole mess in the neighborhood Facebook group that night. Just helped a veteran and now the HOA is coming after me. Thoughts? The comments exploded. Half the street sided with Karen at first. "Rules keep property values up," one guy wrote. But then Bill's story spread. I shared his Purple Heart photo and the letter from his doctor about his bad knees. Suddenly the tide turned. Mrs. 2 doors down knocked on my door the next morning, coffee in hand. "Emma, honey, this is ridiculous," she said, voice soft but firm. The smell of her fresh cinnamon rolls filled my porch. "My father was in Korea. We cannot let this stand." By noon, 20 neighbors had signed a petition. They wanted an emergency HOA meeting. Karen tried to shut it down, emailing everyone that unauthorized gatherings are also violations.
"Oh, please."
The meeting was packed. Folding chairs scraped the community center floor under fluorescent lights. I could smell the stale coffee and feel the tension thick in the air. Karen sat at the head table, lips pressed tight, gavel in hand. "Order," she barked. I stood up first, voice steady even though my knees felt like jelly. "Sergeant Bill saved lives. He does not have a home because the system failed him. Since when does our HOA hate heroes?" Murmurs rippled. Then Mr. Oak. "Karen, your own son stayed 6 months last year without approval. Double standard much?"
"Yes."
Karen's face went white. I had not even known that twist. She slammed the gavel. "Irrelevant." But the room would not stop. One after another, neighbors stood. "You fine me $50 for my kid's basketball hoop, Mrs. Alvarez said. "Yet you ignore your own family?" Karen's hands trembled on the table. "This is about order," she yelled, voice cracking. The community took my side hard. They voted right there to suspend the guest rule for veterans and to review all her past fines. Whispers turned to cheers. I let out the biggest sigh of relief, shoulders finally dropping. Bill sat in the back row, eyes misty, nodding thank you to everyone. But Karen was not done. 2 days later she showed up again, this time with a sheriff's deputy. "Enforcement action," she said coldly, handing me more papers. My blood boiled. The deputy looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, this seems personal." That was the moment the higher climax hit. Because right then, Sergeant Bill stepped out of my house holding his old service medals. "Ma'am," he said to Karen in that quiet, gravel voice, "I served with your father in '68. He would be ashamed." The deputy paused. Karen froze. Turns out her dad had been a decorated vet too. Something she never mentioned while preaching rules. The deputy shook his head and walked away. Karen's lips quivered. Neighbors who had gathered on the sidewalk started filming on their phones. "Delete those," she snapped. But it was too late. The video went viral in our little town by evening. The next week the board forced Karen to resign. She stood at the podium, voice small for the first time. "I was just doing my job." No one clapped. She stormed out, door slamming behind her, her perfect HOA kingdom crumbling. Last I heard she put her own house up for sale and moved out of state. Bitter and alone. Yes. Bill got permanent housing through a new veterans program the community rallied to fund. He still stops by every Sunday with fresh donuts. The neighborhood feels different now. Biter. Kinda. I sit on my porch some mornings, breathing in the clean air, listening to kids playing without fear of fines. You know what I learned? One act of decency can shake the whole system. When good people stand together, even the loudest Karen cannot win. Never be afraid to do what is right, especially for those who gave everything for us. The community always sees the truth in the end. And that, my friends, is a victory worth fighting for.